years did you fly for United?
About 20 years.
20 years. So you flew from the 80s to the 90s, or 70s? 70s to the 90s?
Late 80s and into the, till after the end of the 2000s, yeah.
Okay. So you seen the 737, the 777, the 747. Can you tell me the difference between the three planes, and also which one? Say if you have more, say if you have turbulence, what plane handles better for turbulence versus the 777, 747, and the 737? What handles turbulence better of those three aircraft? Good question.
Yeah, the bigger airplanes do. The bigger airplanes have higher wing loading, and the higher the wing loading, the better it handles turbulence.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. So, say a 747 can actually handle a better job to handle turbulence than a 777 or a 737?
The 47 and 777 be very similar. But both of them are better than the 37. They all, understand that they all, stress-wise, they can handle about the same amount.
Right.
But it's the ride that you get through it when, like, if you're as a passenger, when you're in turbulence. With a 737, you get sort of bounced around like you're on a rough boat ride, let's say.
Right.
Whereas in the bigger airplanes, it's more of a sharp kind of a shutter like thing, and it's not so much like bouncing around. It's more like hitting like a washboard road or something like that.
Well, what's the difference? Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of hard to describe, but I mean, the feel for it is just it's a better ride for the passengers and the crew for that matter. In the bigger airplanes.
Okay. Another question is versus of the 747 and the 777 and the 737. You got four engines versus the two. How does it take longer to taxi the runway versus a 777 or a 737? And what's the difference between having four engines versus two engines? These are excellent questions.
The main difference is if you're traveling over water, when you have only two engines, so we're talking like saying flying to Hawaii or flying to say to Asia or to Europe, those sorts of things. You have to be within a certain distance of land with two engine airplanes, because if you lose an engine, you've got to be able, depends on the certification of your operation. You have to be able to get to a suitable airport within an hour or two. There are extreme cases where they'll allow you to go 3 hours. That's operating on one engine. Whereas the 747, you don't have those issues. And so if you lose an engine, you still are supposed to go to the nearest airport and land, but you're not restricted so much on how close you have to stay to that airport.
Does it take you longer to gas up for a 747 versus a 777, or is it about the same to gas up?
What was it? What's the question again? Did you put fuel in it?
Yeah, the fuel, yeah.
Well, the bigger the 47 carries more fuel, so yeah, it takes longer to fuel it up.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I just wanted to know. I'm always curious about the difference between the aircraft, and also, does it take longer to taxi the runway for a 747 versus a 777? Does it take longer because you need more power, or is it about the same?
No. When you're on the ground, you got plenty of power to taxi. It doesn't matter what you fly.
Okay. So that's good. That's good to know. These are just questions that I want to talk about, because I as a passenger, I always loved aviation. Ever since I've been to air shows, I loved aviation, but I never got to understand the aspects of the aircraft, say for a pilot. I never I have flown, but I never experienced, having the, having responsibility of flying an aircraft. Never had that responsibility. Never have. So that's why I was curious about the difference of the aircraft and get an understanding how the aircraft operates too as well. So I appreciate that too. Also, say if you have say you lose hydraulics. What plane handles hydraulic failure better than any other aircraft? Is it the same? Is it or equal?
They're pretty equal. All things go pretty equal. Obviously, the airplanes that are designed to fly over water have a little bit more redundancy. But generally speaking, there's backup systems and all like that. Once again, your overwater airplanes will do a little bit better. But failures like that are really pretty rare. And so it's not a big thing to be worried about.
How many years did you fly the 777?
I flew the 777 for 2.5 or 3 years.
Oh, was that your best aircraft versus a 747 or a 737?
I like the 47 and the 777 both really well. They all have a different mission. I really did like the 47 a lot, but once I flew the 777, it's a very nice flying airplane, nice handling airplane. It's amazing the performance it gets on two motors. It hauls a very good load. Not quite as big as the 47, but it's much more fuel efficient.
Right.
So that helps a lot in that aspect.
Right. So I'm glad you told us that. Really, because I'm always curious about this because the 777 and the 747. That's just it screamed out beautiness. It really did. I mean, the way the way you did your paint on anybody seeing the 747 the United Airlines, they had the dark gray paint and then they had the blue on top. They had two different paints on the aircraft, and it stood out versus Air Force One. I thought it was a better airplane than Air Force One. I really did. I thought it was a prettier airplane than Air Force One because he had two dark colors mixed in together.
Yep. I like that paint scheme back then.
Yeah, I did too. So you know exactly the paint scheme I'm talking about. What was the theme of that paint scheme anyway? There was a theme for that, right? Was there a theme?
That's just something corporate dreamed up. Okay.
Right. So there's got to be.
We just flew them. We didn't get involved in that part.
Oh, okay. So just flew them. All right. Well, which is the way they did the scheme. The paint trim was it just screamed out beautiness. Is what it did. It really stood out. I mean, any of those pictures, people need to see those photographs for themselves. And seriously, you'll see how much detail that went into that. I thought it was a prettier aircraft than Air Force One. I still do, because you not just paint the aircraft, you also paint the engines too as well. People don't even recognize that. You see, I seen the aircraft for what it is. It stood out for me.
Yep, it was pretty.
It was. It was just. I don't know how much money it put into that paint job, but it stood out though. It stood out for greatness. What this country stood for. It stood out for everything that United stood for. It stood for standing strong and united to be as one nation under the greatest nation on God's green earth. That's what stood out for me for United Airlines. That stood out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, no, I thank you, because I appreciate the fact that I'm actually talking to a pilot who actually flew United Airlines, and you guys put more money into that paint scheme than any other airline that year too as well, or that era, I should say, that decade, especially during the 1990s when you had 777. The 777 came out. That's when we redid that paint